speaking in English. Other than that, the first hour of the session will be for the speakers to give their input, and the second hour of the session will be for participation from the floor. So please feel free to participate in that part of the session. And without further ado, let me give it over to my colleague Samantha, who's going to officially open today's meeting. So thank you very much, everyone.
Okay, thank you, Tebuko. Good morning and a warm welcome to everyone to today's dialogue. My name is Samantha Isaac, and on behalf of the Southern African Liaison Office, I'd like to thank you all for joining us for today's timely discussion on strengthening non-state contributions to Mozambique's national inclusive dialogue. Today's conversation builds on our previous engagement earlier this year, where we reflected on the initial phase of Mozambique's national inclusive dialogue and the opportunities it presented for democratic consolidation. What emerged clearly from the previous discussion was that while the process has opened important spaces for engagement, significant questions remain around inclusivity, representation, and the extent to which participation will translate into meaningful reform. This dialogue takes that conversation a step further. We are now at a moment where the focus must shift toward how citizen inputs are consolidated, how they carried into policy and legislative processes, and whether the dialogue can move beyond the consultation phase toward credible and implementable outcomes. In this regard, the role of non-state actors remains central, not only in contributing to the dialogue, but also in shaping its direction, holding institutions accountable, and ensuring that the process reflects the realities of those most affected. At the same time, we must remain attentive to the broader context within which this dialogue is unfolding. Ongoing political tensions, questions around civic space, and the continued insecurity in Cabo Delgado all shape both the possibilities and the limitations of the current process. Addressing these dynamics is essential if the dialogue is to contribute to sustainable peace and democratic governance. We are fortunate to be joined by a rich panel of speakers who bring a range of perspectives from civil society, research, as well as community engagement. I would like to thank them in advance for joining us today, as well as for their contributions, and I look forward to a robust and thoughtful discussion. I will now hand over to my colleague Munjozi, who will be chairing the first half of the session. Thank you very much for being here with us.
Uh, Perfect. Thank you, Sam, for setting the tone for us. I'm not very sure if I'm audible or at least visible. Uh,
You were
Perfect.
both. both.
Thanks. So let me also take this opportunity to welcome all of you. I know that these are busy times, and the effort many of us are putting in trying to have discussions about how we take uh, or tackle the challenges we are facing in the region and across the continent is something that we don't take for granted. And I know that Mozambique has become a mainstay of some of the things that we do. Understand the situation in Mozambique itself, hear from those that are on the core face of the struggle for an open society in Mozambique. At the same time, also trying to see how Mozambique fits into the broader regional architecture for peace, for democracy, for participation, and all those things. And so it's very important for us at SALO to really we feel that these discussions, these dialogues that we go through every now and then are important in putting our contributions on the table. And I know that since the Feb dialogue, I think it was we had a dialogue in February on Mozambique, and I remember I think it was the bishop who highlighted that we have had a lot of dialogues in Mozambique over the years, and so it was quite clear that Mozambique is not short of dialogue. It is maybe short of dialogue that is going to lead somewhere. And that's why we take a keen interest in the current national dialogue in terms of understanding who is actually in the room. And as we build on this dialogue, as Sam has already said, try to understand of those that are in the room, whose inputs are going to survive and get translated into policy. Uh, and also hear from those that are participating what will happen. We know that there have been consultations, and after these consultation processes, how will citizens' voices be translated into something meaningful? And so I think today we want to ask more questions and hopefully help clarify ourselves in terms of the task at hand and what needs to be done. But more importantly, to understand, I think, is the poster that was sent out by the SALO team, really understand the specific role of non-state actors in pushing that process from what you'd say being inclusive in name to ensure that it's inclusive in outcomes. And so it's very important for us to really understand that. And today we are joined by four very sharp voices on what has been happening in Mozambique and from the Youth Parliament, from the youth mobilization platforms with a gender perspective, decide to the religious, the faith organizations. And I don't want to take much of your time. I want us to really get into it and clearer thinking on what does meaningful non-state contribution actually require, both structurally and in terms of impacting systems to ensure that the outcome is truly inclusive and participatory in nature. So without taking much time, I want to ask my favorite bishop, Bishop Ernesto Manuela, who is the Anglican bishop for Nampula. And Bishop, I think that we don't have to introduce you a lot. You have been a permanent voice now on Mozambique on this platform, and we wanted to take your thoughts from the last dialogue, what has been happening, but what is the thinking within the religious, the faith groups, the faith platforms. We're seeing progress, light at the end of the tunnel, or light even within the tunnel itself. So, Bishop, please do come in.
No, thank you muchos. Good morning, everyone. And special greetings to my colleagues from the country, Dr. Diaz. Thank you for the work that you are doing, and Melissa and the other colleagues. Well, in terms of the dialogue, I think we are making progress. But as we make progress, I think we need to make sure that some critical aspects are not sidelined. And I think this particular panel today is commendable because is focused on deepening engagement, and I really like the focus on engagement, but also it seeks to shift the conversation from the state-centered to non-state actors, which is very, very important. I think we need also to assess and be reminded why do we need this process. So the process was started because we have a critical need of peace building in Mozambique. I think it is a process that we have been doing, I think, the last decade, but the post-election unrest is the point where the country come to the need and they say there is a need for a dialogue. So if we see the 4 or 5 pillars that have been identified, the question remains, yes, we need reforms, but reform, what for? Why do we need reforms? We need reforms because the peace building process needs to be strengthened. And because peace building, I think, is missing in all these 4 to 5 pillars. Because peace building is necessary, as we know that is the only aspect that will make sure that relationships are healed, individuals, institutions, the whole structure and the systems are oriented not for confrontation, but for peace and for social coexistence. I think these are we can't just be distracted in terms of what we want to go. Before we proceed, we need, in fact, to assess relationships. If we ask you, for example, now, how is the situation in terms of youth? I would say relationship between civilians and the security forces. Can we say that we are in a position where we can work together? Or youth, for example, and the police and the other systems. I think that is why, for me and for many, peace building is something that we need to engage. We need to articulate and harness it to the whole process of dialogue. Excuse me. And then I think my focus today will be just on faith-based communities, especially the area where we are. I think the role of faith communities is very critical in terms of what we want to achieve. If we really need genuine progress, because as we said in other dialogue that in other session that Mozambique is rich in terms of dialogues. The challenge is the implementation. The challenge is to translate dialogue proposals into policy, into practical, intangible policies that citizens can say, in fact, what people have discussed are already being implemented. At least to have the sign that the structure, the systems, and the institutions, even individuals, are aligned not for confrontation but for peace. I think we need to all agree that yes, this is the position that we need. Unless we shift that, we will have a difficulty to make a transition to the second phase. I think there is a document that was released by the Catholic the Catholic Conference of Bishops in Mozambique, which I say that is very important. It is the guide, the political guide to inclusive dialogue. Actually, what the bishops are saying, what the faith community is saying is, please include peace building. It will be very difficult to go to second phase to say to submit proposals or to even to go to try to have a consensus unless we have shifted ourselves to peace building. And then why do we need to strengthen non-state actors and the special faith-based communities? One is because faith-based communities and the non-state actors, I would say one of the studies from the Catholic Relief Services that was done during the times of the peak of the unrest after the election is saying faith communities, the 70% of the faith communities are trusted by the society, and then compared to 48% of the state. So it means that local voices, non-state actors are still trusted by the people, but also they have a huge network of their membership. We see also that not only networks, but they are the majority in terms of providing human services. So to implement this process in terms of the community, it is viable in terms of the resources, because one of the issues that we have is that try to have this conversation based on budget. I think if we just base the process on budget or on the cost or how we can do it in terms of funding, we will limit ourselves. But if we open the process and allow the citizens to take ownership, and then the state and the authorities just to support and give a technical support, but also bring expertise, I think we can make progress even with the economical situations we have. Once again, why should we strengthen non-state actors? Non-state actors have known in Mozambique to be, in fact, the really champions of any dialogue or any process that seeks peace in the country. It is proven that they do it. It is proven that they have they are guardians of lessons, of memories. And then we can see that some of our senior citizens who led the previous processes were from the civil society. I think there is a trend here in terms of how we can do a conversation in the country. But also, non-state actors are very well known in terms of the mediators, trusted mediators. But they need to be equipped. They need to be included. But also another aspect that we see is through non-state actors, special faith-based communities, we can achieve more local participations. but we need to be honest to ourselves. I'm talking about religious communities. So yes, we have that strength, but we need also to assess our own ambiguities, our own ambivalent aspects. We can see that, I mean, the religious communities also can be sort of they have challenges in terms of they how they assess themselves not to be part of the conflict, because there is that two aspects of the religion. Either we can build, or either we can join to harm. But we all agree that we need to be on the winning side of peace. I think that is what everyone agrees in Mozambique. In terms of the northern part of the country, I would say, how do we take the opportunity not only to limit ourselves to the proposed dialogue, but also to touch the long-standing complexities of the country. I think in the north, the most compelling need at the moment is the human security. So in Cabo Delgado, in Nampula, in Nyasa, everywhere we go, one of the things we see is the need for human security. So to give citizens the sense that at least, even if they are not free, but at least to say they are confident in terms of that they are not living in fear, to make sure that they are not living cyclical in need, but also to give them a sense that they are living in dignity. Because these are the things that we hear, especially for the young people. Because the young people, especially when we talk with them, and when they see the signs of development coming, I'm talking about corporations, I'm talking about the national programs, which are really important, and we need to do that. But we need also to prepare the society or the community to make sure that the expectations, especially of the young people, are not frustrated. So, for example, I'll just give you an example of in terms of the development and in terms of what I'm saying here. Talking to young people in mining areas, Montepuez, Balama, and other places, what we see is that they are mostly interested in quick gains in terms of illegal mining and living for today, and they are driven by needs, poverty, either trying to but in terms of the values, in terms of the long-term aspects of their lives, are not interested in that. I talked last week with one of the young man in Montepuez, that was Namanyumbiri. He said, okay, and he was going to illegal mining at daylight. And then we asked him, why are you doing this? He said, oh, because, no, he was not alone. There were many. We don't have jobs. So we need jobs. But when we ask it, what kind of jobs do you need? If let's say someone will hire you, how much do you expect in terms of your salary? He said 70,000 metikash. And then in terms of academic qualification, he has a primary school. How someone in the primary school can think the salary of 70,000 Medicaid? So it means that this young man, in terms of expectations, is completely not reasonable, because they always live in, let's say, in smuggling. So how do we move the citizen from this terrain that we are to, let's say, to the national agenda, to the formal economy? So these are the things that I see in the North in terms of human security. The other one, just Munjo is not taking your time, and the other colleagues. The other aspect in the North is inclusion in terms of the national aspects. It will be very difficult, even in terms of the dialogue that we are now working on in the country. It will be very difficult just to take it at Dob Town to say, okay, will come to the national, and then we go to the province, and then we go to the district, we go to the village. I think the most productive route is to prepare local actors, to prepare local forums, to strengthen the civil society, to take ownership of the process, to say, to give them, these are the principles, these are the fundamentals. Please do it on your area, and then we will facilitate you. I think these are the issues that I see. What can we do? What can be more coordinated? I think the idea of having a civil society architecture in terms of the peace building, in terms of the dialogue, to identify everyone who is involved, and to see how do we cluster people in terms of their working areas. Let's say civil societies, let's say faith-based actors. And if we identify, I think we have already identified, the civil societies is now organized. I think we know ourselves. So the challenge now is, how do we include the people in their own areas? So Munjos and the colleagues, and these are the things that I just bring today, and I'm available for more interaction. I thank you.
Thank you, Bishop. And I think that you touch, you bring more questions for the House that obviously would need us to really look at. Very important. And I think you started with the issue of the environment, looking at relationships, the state, the ordinary citizens and those that are in power, the youth and the police. Is that a conducive environment for a dialogue that would produce really concrete, progressive outcomes? And I think that's a question that will need to continuously to be interrogated, because it sits at the core of participation and inclusion. And the issue, because your diocese covers the territory that is quite close to Cabo Delgado, and we know the conflict in Cabo Delgado. And the political dialogue has led from Maputo itself, together with the conflict architecture in Cabo Delgado and surrounding provinces, as you touched on briefly, remain poorly integrated. And one of the things in terms of the conduciveness of the environment is, of course, for the communities that are displaced, which we know is massive numbers at some point. At the height of the displacement through the conflict, it's 1 million. Their relationship to the national dialogue itself, are they even legible to participate in this national dialogue? But maybe a key question for you, because part of what you lead in terms of the the peace architecture that you're talking about. And peace and the conduciveness of the environment is very important in ensuring that the dialogue itself produces outcomes that are expected by ordinary citizens of Mozambique. But what would it take for the church itself to actively bridge the gap between the national dialogue process itself and the conflict architecture in the north? I mean, practically, and not just witness it. We don't want to get to the end and say the church was witness to this disjoinder between the national dialogue and the conflict architecture in the north. What would it take for the faith-based groups to ensure that this gap is bridged? So I think that's a very important question that I'm hoping that you would speak to, and also highlighting for us what you are currently doing as we get to the end of the session. But I want to quickly move to the second speaker, who again needs no introduction, a very strong voice among young people and the leadership of civil society in Maputo, in Mozambique, and that's David Fado. Who is with the Youth Parliament in Mozambique. And so, David, the Bishop puts a lot of questions for the House and for you as well as leaders of civil society to help clarify the path you are on to ensure that your voices are ultimately on the table when this process concludes. And we know that court itself has put young people, at least in terms of the language that we hear from Makwakwa and from others, young people are at the center of this dialogue process in terms of youth inclusion. It's a key priority. I think they've stressed this point time and time again. But it would be good to hear from where you are, because also you might help us clarify where exactly is the process at the moment. We know that phase one, we are almost a year and some few months into this process. Where, as young people, do you see this process? And as we are getting into phase two, which is supposed to be the synthesization of the consultation outcomes themselves, going forward, have you participated? Have you put recommendations on the table? But going forward, are you going to be part of the synthesization itself? And yeah, I think we can start there. And where the young people across the country are really participating, but what you have put in place structurally as young people's groups, you have put in place to ensure that young people's voices ultimately are on the table. So, David.
Thank you, Mujose. Am I audible?
Very clear.
Oh, thank you.
So you have about 7 minutes, my brother.
Thank you. So I think that I can speak slowly. It will be quite enough. But first of all, allow me to say good morning, Dumela, Muriwanji, Salama, Zishile, for all my fellows, especially for those people from Mozambique. And I would like, first of all, to congratulate you, SALO, for this particular virtual dialogue, which is inclusive, where we have now the translation for Portuguese. And as the president of the Youth Parliament of Mozambique and also an activist in Mozambique, about the national dialogue, I would like first to say that there's a quite of sexism in Mozambique, where most of us, I think, people, we think that we were not being inclusive, and then even though we, as a civil society organization, what we did, we managed also to launch different platforms. For example, the Youth Parliament of Mozambique, the AMGIS, which is also represented by Melania here. We were also coordinating and the National Commission for Youth Participation and Observation through the National Dialogue, which is a platform where we joined more than 6 organizations across the country, and then we led different actions as auscultations and also some conference just to discuss about the issues of the young people and find out what kind of solution that we can also put on the contribution paper, which was managed also to submit last month. And we felt that by this end also the young people were also interested to be part of this particular process, because if we went through the post-electoral moments, we had more than thousands of young people on the street protesting for the electoral results. But some of them, they took place of this protest just also to make their voice to be heard about like the high cost of life, lack of employment, and so many rights. And as we managed to submit the same, our contributions and other organizations, so they did. Now, what's happening through the national dialogue, it's the technical group. I mean, they are also consolidating because we had the first stage where the consultation through the technical commission have been done, but also we managed to submit our consolidations and a contribution, I mean, and now the technical group, they're also are consolidating what they received from different organizations. And a part of that, luckily, what I mean, before I think that a part of the same setting means the calendar was not clear about how the process, because now we are almost a year. And the calendar was not clear about what exactly the technical commission or the national dialogue is also about to do on the ground. And one of the, I would like to highlight 3 main points: the perspective, the challenge, and advance. First, we think this is an opportunity to discuss and reform some policies in Mozambique, and I would like to agree with our bishop when he say that I think that we are winners of dialogues across the region, because we went through different agreements, different dialogues, and even if you look for our main policy, Mozambique, including the constitution, it's clear. The only problem as young people that you're also concerning about, it's main focused on how those policies are being implemented on the ground and how the same policy will benefit the young people. This is the first issue. The second one is also the fact that I think it's also another opportunity for the technical commission of this dialogue to be focused on economic inclusion through natural resources, because in Mozambique, as we know, we have many resources where even the place where the same resources are being exploited, the poverty is there. The local communities are not even get some benefits of the same resource. So that's why we think it will be a great opportunity to discuss about natural resource on the ground. And what's happening now, I think about this, the challenge is the fact the auscultations, which would be, I think, the auscultation held on the ground, the provincial, the districtal, until the local level. The main challenge is the fact that people who were invited to join and also to share their perspective, the timeline was short, because most of the auscultation on the ground, it takes not more than 5 hours, which is not enough just to hear all the voice on the ground. The second point is the fact that on the rural area, we have most people now who are living, I think, who are living above natural resource, different natural resource. but they don't even know how the same resource can also benefit them. And the level of academic illiteracy is also one of the key points that we felt that most of them, according to what we heard on the ground, is they don't even care about electoral policies, about economical strategies. They're just going through what they are facing on the ground. So I think that's illiteracy, academic illiteracy is one of the challenge. That's why I think that the technical commission, even we as COPS, Deny Youth Parliaments and another organization, we didn't get enough from the people on the ground. Luckily, we're representing them. Luckily, we have also some organizations. But if you go through I think a normal citizen, we note that they are not even aware about what's happening on this particular dialogue. The other challenge is also because of the fact that, unfortunately, we in Cabo Delgado, for example, we're facing that challenge with the insecurity since 2017. Now we are almost 10 years next year. And some districts were not able to be auscultated, or to be heard. And this is one of the challenge. And a part of that, the access to different regions or areas was also one of the challenge, because some were affected by floods before, and even the condition of the roads was not good. That's why they were not be able to be heard. So about some advances, I think that's first, we have youth groups which managed to submit their contribution to influence the process in Mozambique. On the other hand, the same contribution through the youth parliament and also the COPJ denied, they managed also to do the same. So we are concerning about these all those points, and I think that we can also like step forward. How can we overcome? It's the dialogue should be more inclusive first. When I'm talking about inclusiveness, I'm looking not only of gender, different social groups. I'm also talking about even like the information, how the same information are being shared. Because what we saw now, what's happening is we are not even aware what's happening now. We know that some technical groups. When I'm saying we, I'm talking as Youth Parliament of Mozambique. I'm part of one technical group which is about natural resources, and we are also consolidating that the information of what people shared on the ground. And then when I was talking about the inclusiveness, is the fact that all the steps, everything what's happening through this particular dialogue should be also shared on with time, just to make sure that different civil society organizations can also be part of. We are like overall, we are just concerning, I think, about how, like, what kind of policies will be approved. But on this same topic matter, let me say that one of the challenges is also the fact that there are some approvals of laws during the dialogues, which raise some questions about the importance of reviewing laws on the dialogue, while some laws are being also approved in the parliament. Because it seems like we are working 4 or 5 steps forwards, but at the same time, there are some people pushing us 10 steps backwards. So this is one of the challenges, because, for example, recently the parliament approved some laws about communication in Mozambique. There are some laws about economical and fiscal taxes, so in some others. And now the same national dialogue, they are discussing about the same thematics. So it's one of the concerning or challenge about this particular dialogue. But overall, we think that as we're going to the second phase, where the technical groups, they are consolidating the information that they received from the ground, and then they will be also from June or July, if I'm not mistaken, they will be also on the ground just to share with the people who were auscultated before what they consolidated. So I think that overall we have those challenge perspective and advances, but we luckily we think that we also be able to assist and monitor the process, because at the end of the day, we are attending now just to make sure that for the next in the next 5 years we'll be able to say that. So we had the national dialogue 5 years ago, but you are not also respecting the same policies which were approved, because now we are talking about the peace agreement in 1992, but most of us, we were kids, we didn't even participate on this particular agreement. So now we have this opportunity of the dialogue. That's why we are making sure that everything that is been doing on the ground, we are sharing with our comrades as young people, just to make sure that they will also be aware of what's happening, and they will help us to monitor as a kind of watchdog of the same policies.
Thanks, David. I think quite comprehensive as well, and I'm hoping that there will be a number of questions that will come from your inputs. But I think you touch on key issues, especially surrounding the context of the dialogue process itself. The calendar that was put by court not being very clear in terms of at what point do we move from this phase to the next phase to the other phase, and all that, the structure of the dialogue, the times that were set in terms of input gathering, but also the places that were chosen being a problem itself. The issue of national awareness, I think you raise a critical question around ordinary citizens not being aware that there is a national dialogue that is going on, or if they have a sense of, oh, there is something happening, they are not really glued into the details of what exactly is happening, yet this has potential to change the direction Mozambique will take in the coming years. So very important for civil society and non-state actors to really begin to think about how do we turn the tide and ensure that we have everyone on the tables. The challenge that you highlight, which is coupled to what I've just raised, that policies, some of the laws are being passed already in Parliament, even though we know that this national dialogue is as comprehensive as it can be. And the issue of the dialogue being a theater and not really meant to advise on real progress becomes a concern that I think as civil society you then have to keep monitoring. And I know that the work you are doing as civil society and young people would be able to help in ensuring that elite capture doesn't become a reality in terms of capturing the national dialogue. Thanks, David. I want to move very quickly to Melania, who is with Amjij, an association of young women, particularly focusing on gender equality and education. And I know that they have been doing some massive work with other youth organizations like Inclusio and Youth Parliament. And I think some of the recommendations that David was speaking on, they were part of that. But Melania, when we met a couple of months back in December at that conference, one of the things that coming out was the fear and the restriction around civic freedoms, and that those were suppressing participation, especially given the context in which the dialogue itself came to be out of a violent process in 2024. And we know that every time there is a lot of violence, women, young women, usually sort of stay away from those kind of environments. I wanted to get a sense from the work you are doing in this dialogue, how you are navigating that reality on the ground, and the design, court dialogue design itself, whether it gives you any tools to be able to address some of the challenges that young women and women in general would face to contribute and participate meaningfully in this dialogue, or you are just working around it, around those challenges, and also a sense of how do you see this dialogue moving forward? What are you preparing to ensure that your contributions are not sidestepped and put aside even as you move into policy formulation as young people?
Bom dia a todos. Não sei se conseguem todos ouvir. Obrigada. Mais uma vez agradecer a SALO pelo convite e dizer que a AMGIS tem, para além do que já foi aqui apresentado pelo David, para além do trabalho exaustivo que está a ser feito através da COPSTENAI, a AMGIS também tem realizado auscultações. Atualmente, cerca de 2 semanas, realizamos um debate na Universidade Eduardo Mondlane, acerca do PSOE. Tivemos lá especialistas na área de economia e finanças, que era para tentar analisar o nível de implementação do plano e também ver como é que as organizações podem influenciar e também garantir que os jovens, e principalmente as jovens mulheres, possam participar mais ativamente nestes processos. A escutação era sobre o que os jovens e as jovens mulheres pensam sobre a implementação do plano econômico social do Orçamento do Estado, e foi realizado justamente com o objetivo de criar esse espaço de diálogo para recolher aquilo que são as percepções da juventude, das mulheres, das raparigas sobre este instrumento central de governação, porque entendemos que esses espaços eles ajudam, fortalecem aquilo que é a participação juvenil na monitoria das políticas públicas, contribuem também para uma governação mais inclusiva e real, transparente, alinhada àquilo que são as reais necessidades das jovens mulheres, em especial as jovens mulheres moçambicanas. A gente também ainda continua a realizar webinários de forma a mobilizar mais mulheres, a tentar passar aquilo que é informação de forma mais clara e transparente, para que elas se sintam mais incluídas neste processo, para que elas entendam de que é que se trata. E neste momento estamos a elaborar um relatório que será entregue ao Ministério da Juventude. E ainda no âmbito da inovação e inclusão, realizamos também esta semana, em parceria com a IMD e outras organizações, o lançamento de uma plataforma digital denominada Cidadão Participa. Foi um espaço, uma mesa redonda que foi promovida no sentido de colher mais informações ou mais contribuições dos jovens, mas também de apresentar esta plataforma, e tivemos neste encontro oradores que, por acaso, são membros da COT, que deixaram ficar aquilo que está a ser feito, as contribuições, o que está a ser feito com as contribuições que já foram colhidas, o que está a ser feito em cada área, e este debate, acreditamos que foi um encontro muito importante de monitoria realizado pela nossa organização em parceria com outras organizações da sociedade civil. E falando especialmente desta plataforma, é uma ferramenta que vem no sentido de reforçar a ligação entre os jovens e as instituições, o governo, vai permitir que as propostas da sociedade civil dos jovens também tenham maior impacto naquilo que são os processos legislativos de reforma. Uma plataforma que pode ser usada de forma muito fácil, através do nosso telemóvel, através do computador, e bom, foi uma forma encontrada para poder ter acesso aos jovens. Entendemos que um dos maiores espaços atualmente é o espaço virtual, e é através desta plataforma que as pessoas podem deixar de forma simples aquilo que são as suas contribuições, assim como ter acesso também às contribuições que já foram feitas pelas organizações da sociedade civil e outros coletivos. Mas temos que reconhecer, não é, que a inovação, ela por si só, não é suficiente. É necessário que sejam adotadas abordagens híbridas, no sentido de equilibrar aqueles que são os meios tradicionais de comunicação e a tecnologia, usando talvez rádios comunitários e comitês locais, debates em línguas locais, de forma a garantir a maior inclusão, principalmente nas zonas rurais, nesta segunda fase da explotação, e também a atingir aquilo que são as populações com menor acesso digital. E reforçar ainda que o presidente, desculpa, o doutor Edson Macquaco, ele deixou claro neste mesmo evento que as votações elas não terminam, será um processo contínuo e o governo pretende mesmo continuar nesta tentativa de colaborar com os jovens, tentar ganhar um pouco de confiança desta camada que é muito, mas muito importante, no entanto, durante muito tempo foi negligenciada. Então, o processo ele não irá se limitar apenas a escutar, também será um processo de cocriação, colaboração entre os jovens, as organizações, o governo e outras instituições não estatais. E olhando um bocadinho para aquilo que são as dinâmicas de Cabo Delgado, a AMGIS também, neste momento, tem vindo a trabalhar com algumas organizações de Cabo Delgado e tem realizado algumas atividades também no âmbito do próprio diálogo. Temos tido algumas conversas com outras organizações Cabo Delgado e ao longo destes debates, dessas conversas, nós entendemos que este conflito, esta estabilidade, ela tem um impacto direto na comunidade e, de certa forma, o diálogo ele pode ganhar um pouco mais de relevância porque vai permitir integrar as vozes das populações afetadas e refletir sobre respostas políticas mais sensíveis àquilo que é a realidade local. Então, a inclusão desta temática também no diálogo pode reforçar aquilo que é a necessidade de articular sobre a segurança, o desenvolvimento e tentar garantir soluções que.
Sorry, sorry, Melania, just a
Sorry.
bit of for those colleagues who are hearing only Portuguese, please go to the translation and
Sim.
choose the English channel so that you are able to hear in English. Sorry for that. I thought we had said it at the beginning of the session. But those who can't hear English and are only hearing Portuguese, please go to the translation and click the English channel. You should be able to hear in English. Thank you. Sorry, Melania, for that. Please do continue.
Oh, não tem nenhum problema. Creio que falávamos um bocadinho do diálogo mais virado para a questão de Cabo Delgado, mas vamos fechar já aqui com a questão das limitações. Eu não vou entrar muito neste assunto porque o David já deixou aqui ficar aquilo que entendemos como limitações, principalmente para nós, organizações que trabalhamos diretamente com os jovens e as jovens mulheres no campo, entendemos que tanto a questão da barreira digital, assim como a desigualdade na informação, a fraca literacia política, são algumas limitações que nós, como organizações, tentamos minimizar, realizando esses encontros, esses debates, esses encontros com as comunidades, falando um pouco mais sobre diferentes temáticas que envolvem a comunidade, fazem com que elas entendam o que é especificamente este diálogo e o que são esses processos, como é que eles podem contribuir e tentamos desmistificar alguns pontos, alguns conceitos que para muitos não são não são muito comuns. Então, a dizer que os autores não estatais, eles desempenham sim um papel essencial como uma ponte entre o governo e a sociedade, e nós, como organizações da sociedade civil, devemos continuar nesta batalha, no sentido de envolver ainda mais os jovens, tentar construir esta confiança. É claro que não vai ser daqui para aqui, não será em pouco tempo, mas há uma necessidade de continuarmos a trabalhar no sentido de reforçar esta colaboração, esta cocriação de novas políticas, de novos conceitos, de novos sistemas e de novos paradigmas. Então, como organização, temos trabalhado neste sentido e entendemos que não será de uma forma isolada, estamos a fazer isso com outras organizações que também têm o mesmo objetivo que nós, que é colaborar neste processo contínuo entre a juventude, o governo e a sociedade civil. Muito obrigada.
Thanks, Melanie. I think that was quite brief and to the point. I think you highlighted clearly what you are doing as an organization, and of course, importantly, in collaboration with many others. Because I think from when we started some of these discussions, we have always been talking about the importance of civil society finding each other and working collaboratively. And so it's quite encouraging to see that you guys have taken this quite strongly and you moving forward. The importance of trust, the point that you ended on, very important if you are to have an outcome that is positive. And of course, the good thing is you are engaging with court itself. I think sitting down with Makwakwa is helpful for civil society so that you're able to pick the contradictions between what you're doing, what they say, and the actual process itself. Well done to you and your colleagues at Amjish and many others for the work you're doing. And certainly we'll keep cheering and supporting where we are able to. But thank you for the inputs, very important. I want to quickly move to my last but not least speaker. Again, he needs no introduction. A very important voice in what has been happening in Mozambique since or just before the elections, but around the election time, and even now in this dialogue process. We know that so I'm introducing Dr. Ukel Diaz, who is leading an organization called Decide. And I know that they have been leading in terms of civic democratic monitoring, particularly of this process. There's been a lot of monitoring that Decide has been doing. And one of the things that we keep flagging in our dialogues, the SALO, is the idea that public confidence is very fragile and that citizens from time to time don't want just to be told about the process, but they want to see tangible movement towards a kind of a future that they can relate to. And so that's where I wanted to start, Dr. Diaz, that from where you are sitting and the work you have been doing as Decide, what has court done or what can it do, say, in the next 90 days as this process changes to another phase to really send confidence and give a sense of credibility that what they are doing is architecture and not just theater to buy time to demobilize the civic forces and the political forces that came together after the elections, and that this is a genuine process that is meant to address the underlying challenges that Mozambique has been facing. And also just to allow you to remind us what this process is. We know that there are 10 thematic areas, and I said earlier that that's as comprehensive a national dialogue can be. And the questions are around the reality of really addressing these 10 thematic areas in a space of 2 years, and allow for reforms, policy changes, law changes to be able to. Is that something that is feasible? I think over the dialogue, we kept highlighting the disjoint between the conflict in the north and the national dialogue process itself, the issues of inclusion and participation that are problematic. I think one of the key issues is the because this was a political parties led dialogue initiated process, the exclusion of Venancio, who had been at the center of the troubles that possibly led to this dialogue. What does this all mean in terms of the success of the dialogue process? And where do you see the process going? But beginning by telling us where the process is, because I know that you have been doing massive monitoring of the process. Thanks, Doc. Please do come in.
Thank you, Mujose, and good morning for everyone. I'm lucky to have elephant memory because Mujose gave me so many questions, and I'm happy to have the answer for all those questions. So I think first we need to remind the national dialogue science one process after the post-electoral violence, and the people was in the streets to reivindicate it. There's so many things like education, jobs, and etc. So right now we are in the one other phase of the first step of the national dialogue. And if with your permission, I need to share my screen. Just a second. I don't know if it's possible or not because I have so many things here to present. Just a second.
I'm hoping that Tebuho, we are helping him to be able to share.
Yes, yes, you should be able to share, but just let me know if you have any issues.
Okay.
Oh, he left, but he might have disconnected, but he's back in now. Let's just give him a second.
Okay. Okay. Cool.
I think you're seeing my screen right now, all of you.
Yes. Yes, we can.
Okay. I'm sorry to not prepare a very beautiful presentation on PowerPoint because I was travel. So I'm tired and I don't have time to make, but I think the most important is the content, what we will share at this moment. So right now we are making the monitoring of the second phase of the national dialogue. We made the first phase. All of you maybe can consult on our website, the website. So we have the information of the first phase. Right now we are in the second phase of the first phase. We call the 1.2 phase of the national dialogue. We make very good progress on this phase, but it's like I said, we are late because I said the most part of the time we need to try to run because we don't have enough time for the next elections. And maybe if we not make some reforms in times, maybe it will create more problems at the moment. So now we on this second phase of the first phase of the national dialogue, the code and the group work groups covered for now with our search more approximately 51 locations distribution with in the different province in Mozambique. And we saw progress on this second phase because it's not only youth, human, women, and some community leaders or some people from the civil society. Right now, we have political parties. We saw the academics, teachers, the religious, the economic agents, and etc. So on this second phase, I think we saw one more inclusive process if we compare with the first phase. So in general, right now, on these 2 months, because the second phase, I think, will start in March. The second, we are in the second phase of the national dialogue. So we saw more than 10,000 participants across the country. So we have more than 10,000 participated on that's all monitoring process or auscultation process, and for us it's a very good very good thing. And if you look for examples for the numbers we make here in Maputo, like I said, it's a preliminary report from the auscultations we make. We saw in Maputo 3 administrative posts. We have more than 400 participants. You go to Gaza, for example, in this 5 administrative posts, we have around 300 citizens. You go to Nyambani, we have a 2. You go to Sofala, for example, we have more than 1,800 participants, very good number. You go to Manica province, you have a more that number. We have 3,000 participants in the 18 administrative posts. This is a very good number. If you look, for example, to that day, we have 1,000, sorry. If you go to Zambezia, you will see more than 100, but it's only in one post administrative, but we have more. I think in our final report, we will put more. Here we have Nampula province with more than 1,200. Maybe we will see more on the final report. The same in Niassa province, we saw more than 500 participants. So in total, it's like I said, we saw more than 10,000 participants across the countries or participated on this process. And we saw women on this process. That is very good. The most part of the times that women don't speak, but it's very important to share the information in the other province. The women have some words and some things to say, and it's very important for this content. And it's important to set on these 51 points. We saw some themes or that themes or must is the part of the, and we saw in the mouth of the people the most part of the time. If you look, for example, to the reform of the electoral system, is one of them. The people don't trust in our actual system, electoral system, and we saw here on this document some recommendations. So the most part of the people, most part of the people give that proposal, like introduction of the electoral voting. Maybe it will be a very good mechanism to try to change and to change that irregularities. The people said the most part of the time to reduce the time for announcing the electoral results, and the transparency and etc. was the three most popular things that we were hearing, the people hearing during the auscultation. The second, we saw the reconfiguration of the political power, the limitation and reduction of the powers of the president is the one of the most big things. We will listen. If you look to the public security of citizen, most particularly in Cabo Delgado, we saw some people like give that opinion about that whole process. I will share that document to Mujosi to share to other people, because we have a lot of things here and we don't have a lot of time. We have also to management of the natural resources and economic justice, that the distribution, so the benefits for local communities, one of the most big problems we saw on the mineral areas, and is the most part of the recommendations we are listening on those type of regions, and access to the basic and social problems like equipment or medicines. We go to the schools is the one other very big problems we all see. I think this is the basic thing and the most popular things we'll listen during the auscultation of the court auscultations on the ground. So the fight against the corruptions and the justice is the one very important point. And finally, we have the access to justice is the one of the other point we are listening to, the most part of the time during the court auscultation or the work group auscultations on the ground. And the access to justice, where, for example, the issues of the to have access to the judicial system, the revision of the constitution to safeguard rights, to demonstrations and defend the freedom of expressions. Maybe we need to give more conditions to the people have access to the constitutional council, for example, because at this moment, only if we need to go to have access to the constitutional council, we need to organize more than 2,000 citizens to go to the constitutional court to submit some type of problem. So the most part of the time, that is the one big problem. And a part of from this of the national dialogue, we saw the problem to access to housing, hospitals, health, the privilege in access to the state's service and opportunities to go the most part of the people, the part for the party in power, to work or to access to jobs and etc. The most part of the time, that is the most big problems what the people make mentions during that auscultation of the national dialogue. So in other part, we saw around 23 organizations who have formally submitted the contributions to the national dialogue. That contributions we saw from consortiums of and platforms or the singular organizations. If you look, for example, you have one political party, it's an Amola, it's the only one political party who submitted their contributions for the Technical Commission of the National Dialogue. Here we have the list of the platforms or the forums of the civil society or submit that proposals. That is the names, a different type of organizations or platforms for children's, platforms for women, and etc. All those we saw here, and we saw also some other provincial organizations, so platforms, for example, Nampula, Zambezi, Niassa, Sofala, Nyambani, and etc. What is the part of that platforms? And we saw some professional associations like ANAPRO is from the teachers. We see the journalists syndicates from Nyambani. We see the catering and the restaurant associations of Mozambique. We saw here. We saw the some other companies or associations who created some events in Mozambique was submitted that proposals. We saw the organization, the youth organizations like Kopsh Denai, David and Melania as a part of that. We saw the Youth Writers Alliance. We saw, for example, I forgot to put here, but we have the Inclusão, is one of them. We have in the other part of the development organizations, we have SESC, we have FDC, we have Prodea, and we have the other type of organizations like FAMOD, who leads with disabilities, and we have another part, we have the Decide platform. But at the last, we have one overview of the media coverage in that national dialogue. The mass part of the all that media intentions going to the public stations like public radio, Radio Mozambique, Televisão de Mozambique, TVM. We have the newspaper Jornal Notícias, and they have that numbers here on our document, and we have the other internationals media stations who give more external vision, like Lusa, DW Africa, RTP, and Club of Mozambique, the most part of the time that amplify the national dialogue across the world. And at the least, we have the private companies like TV Sucesso and etc., who created space to promote debates and etc. So in total, on these 2 months, we saw more than 117 contents in the different platforms. When we say contents, we make a mentions for debates, we make a mentions for share and for news about the national dialogues, the dialogue, and etc. So that is the one small overview about the current situation of the national dialogue. To end my speech, I need to say one important thing. We make one mistake. We continue to make one very big mistake at the moment, to put the all concentration in the reforms. But in any moment we saw anything about the reconciliation or one form or accountability, for example. And that is the one of the big mistake, because when all that political parties and etc. created the national dialogue, the principal idea is to create some space we can share debates or create debates or share informations or find solution for the reconciliation in Mozambique. And right now we are running to auscultation. Auscultation is not a reconciliation. It's a different things. And if we don't pay attention, what is reconciliation at this moment, maybe we'll see the bad things in the future. Thank you so much.
Thanks, my brother. I think that's very important work you are doing, and I'm seated looking at that, and I'm hoping that it is widely being shared with colleagues in civil society, so that I think strategies of participation and where you are lacking in terms of the, as you highlighted at the end, that we might put focus in one area, forgetting that this dialogue is very comprehensive and there are other areas that will need strong attention from citizens themselves. So if we are able to use this kind of information and monitoring to see where we are lacking, and sort of shift attention towards that, identify organizations that could be participating in other areas. I think that would be very important. But thank you so much. And I think that there will be a number of questions.
Sorry, Mujose. Sorry, Jose. One
Yeah.
important thing, just in 10 seconds, it's the most part of the organizations who make mentions during that representation don't have any space. We don't know what type of the contributions they submitted. The court don't have one platform so can share their information in real times. What is the contribution, what the ANAPRO, for example, for the teachers said. So we need to try to create one platform to discuss the contributions. And maybe that is the one form to try to create some pressure to the people outside. Because the most part of the time, the people saw on the news, okay, the ANAPRO give the contributions. Oh, okay, but what type of the contributions? Nobody knows. So if the people know about what type of the contribution decide give to the court, it's because we make one job to try to share what type of the contributions we give the court, but the other organization don't have that conditions to do the same job. And after that, what we can do? What is the next step to try to create a pressure? What is the recommendations and etc. So it's very important to try to work on the thing to create one platform so can share that information.
It's very important to begin to look at the content even as you go into the end of this process that's coming from across the different sector. I totally agree with that. And I'm hoping that you take the leadership in terms of creation of that platform where it could be interactive and where many other organizations could put their recommendations. The hope is that their recommendations are not secret. They are something that is quite public and can be made public. So thanks, Dias. Thanks so much. I want to hand over to my colleague, Marisa, who will take you through the second part of this dialogue. Thank you.
Thank you, Mogoma. Thank you. I'll be very brief for the sake of time, but thank you to our speakers, our excellent speakers, and our excellent interpreter, and our participants. For the sake of time, we are going to try very hard to respect everybody's time today. I will go straight into it. A round of 3 questions. If people want to either raise their hand or post in the chat, questions for our speakers.
Hi, Marissa. While we look for speakers, there is one question in the chat already from Piers.
From Piers, would you?
Piers,
Piers, would you? Yes, you posted a while ago. Piers, are you with us? Would you like to shoot the question? I'll read it out loud. Is Piers still in the room?
I am still in the room.
Hi, Piers. Thank you. Should I read your question? Intel Watch is hosting. Would you like to read your question? Sorry. Would you like to read your question?
No. I mean, I'll rephrase it. People on the group can read it for themselves. But it's a general question, and it's a comment in some respects about freedom of speech in Mozambique in a context of dialogue processes, because I mean we see a lot of good work going into investing in processes for discussion, but the essential question is Mozambique a place where there can be honest discussions about very sensitive issues, particularly ones which involve the state and a repressive apparatus that has killed a lot of people, has a number of people still in detention, and does not have a history of accountability. These are hard issues, I appreciate that, but I think we need to avoid dancing around them. And we really need to understand. Now, I saw in the accompanying report there was mention of the ongoing detentions, and I understand there's several thousand of those still in place at the moment. But it concerns me that we have these discussions about dialogue and about the process of dialogue when these absolutely core essential issues are kind of airbrushed out of the discussion. Now, it may be that we know that if they are raised, then that's going to blow up trust with government, et cetera, et cetera. But I'm just putting it on the table. How does one navigate in this space without putting, if you'll excuse the expression, lipstick on a pig? Thank you.
Thank you, Piers. I'm not sure if we want to find 2 more questions, rounds of 3 is what we usually do, or if speakers would like to jump straight in with that question while we wait. I think while we wait for more questions, let's...
Hi, Marisa. Hi, Richard here. Good afternoon. Oh, still good morning. Good day, everyone.
Good morning.
So mine is more of a comment than a question. What I'm thinking is a low-hanging fruit, remembering that the violence, the instability that we saw in Mozambique was as a result from 2024, the elections. It might be helpful that while there's national dialogue, talk about constitutional reforms, the focus be on reforms of the electoral system in Mozambique. We all know that countries that use first past the post electoral system, many of them experience post-violence, post-election violence, with the exception of a few like Botswana. But a good example, Zambia recently changed their electoral system because, for instance, if they adopt mixed member proportional, it's more inclusive. Political parties, opposition will be represented. So I think that could be a low-hanging fruit while conversations are going on, the dialogues, but this could go directly to Parliament to say, as civil society, we recommend that we revise the electoral system. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Litilale. Do we have another question? To neatly have our 3, or should we shoot for those 2?
In absence of any other questions, I'd just like to just pose one short question, just piggybacking off Piers' inputs. I'll just be interested to hear about what lessons we can draw from, Mozambique's experience in this dialogue process that could be applicable to other SADC contexts that are facing similar governance or post-election challenges. So yeah, that would be my contribution. Thank you.
Thank you. And colleagues, these were all posed, nothing was posed specifically to a specific speaker. We'll start from the top with Piers' question. Does anybody want to have a first bite on Piers' question? But freedom of speech and not, and going there, that is our task. It's not our business to stick on pigs.
Okay, maybe I was about to start from the second question. From I forgot her name. I think yes. Yeah. Oh yeah. So she raised the question about the fact that most of us were talking about the revising of the constitution. But I'd like also maybe to highlight that through the national dialogue, there are 10 technical groups where each group discuss about a specific topic. We have a group about constitution. There's a group about national reconciliation in security. There's a group about security in a role, natural resources, justice, economic affairs, So we have there are 10 technical groups, and within the electoral process, there's another group also about electoral law. And now they're running like out of the time just to make sure that the electoral law will be revised and submitted through the parliament to be approved. And most of us, for example, as youth parliaments, as COPS Deny, which is a platform with more than 600 organizations, we submitted our contributions, and we're mainly focused on the electoral law, where, for example, we highlighted the fact that the young people, most of us, we've been excluded during the electoral process. And one of our suggestions is it was focused on the timeline to like the result to be released, the adoption, like the timeline of the mandates of the deputy MPs on the parliament. On other hands, also we shared about creation of electoral code. Like there are several points which we shared about this particular process, because what we saw is in Mozambique we are going through cyclic electoral process, but most of them, I can say all of them, were not fair. So we think at the end of the day, having this electoral law revised, we know that Zambia, for example, in August, they are going for elections. So we are learning from other countries, but on other hand, for example, I'm saying we are learning from other countries such as South Africa, the last election, Botswana, Malawi, where we feel comparing the electoral process in Mozambique and those countries, we feel that in those countries the process it was well conducted. So we submitted there our contribution, and we are now fighting to make sure that all contribution will be also put on the new law and then approve it by the parliament. So going through per question, maybe my colleagues can also highlight. I would like to make sure that the fact, unfortunately, we're going through a national dialogue, a part of looking for the well-being, looking for retreats, looking for reconciliation. Because one of the key issue in Africa, let me say Africa, is the fact of the liberation history, how we have been liberated from the colonialism. And those political parties during the liberation process, like Frelimo, ANC, ZANU-PF, and others across the country, the continent, they feel like they own the country and they can't even release the power for others, you know. So that's why even during the process, where some police who shoot for young people, we have many young people arrested. So at the end of the day, we didn't even see anyone or any of those people being also being judged by the courts in Mozambique about what they did during the protest. So, and even the same government, the political party in power, they didn't even go to apologize themselves for the society, for the Mozambicans. That's why now we are going through the national dialogue just to make our contribution, because if we don't attend, if we are attending or not, at the end of the day, there will be some laws approved. So that's why we're making sure that we should attend and share our thoughts. Maybe we can also monitor best the process. Thank you.
Thank you, David. And Bishop Ernesto, I see your hand. Is that, would you like to answer, have a go at one of the questions? Bishop?
No, thank you. Well, just two quick responses, and one is in terms of freedom of expression in Mozambique. I think yes, looking at the level of unrest that we had after the elections, the tensions, people who died, and the whole scenarios, I think no one could just believe that people could just have such access to speak or just to, but because of the good work from the civil society and the constant monitoring of the scenarios, I think there is a sort of there is a reasonable level of expression. I'm just focused on the grassroots, focused on the community, but the Dr. Diaz can say more about the nation level. But at community level, I think because of the constant monitoring from civil society, from local actors, I think people can say, yeah, they quite they feel safe to speak out. I'm based in Nampula. If you go to one of the most critical neighborhoods like in Amikopo, people are afraid to speak it, either to release even social media, and no one is just molested because has done something like that. In terms of Dr. Diaz and other, especially Dr. Diaz and I think one of our participants has raised, even Moncho has raised what we do in terms of the faith communities. I think the national dialogue, what we are having now, promoted actually from the national level, it comes with another parallel and a process, which I highlighted, which is peace building. But because our role as faith actors is just to be in between national processes and grassroots realities, so what we see that there are two processes. One, the open one nationally in terms of the dialogue, but there is at the community level a peace building process where it is informal. It is something to say, how can we come together? So I think at the level of the relational level, there is a sort of a solidarity. So yes, we don't have a sort of a Truth and Reconciliation Commission or other processes that happened in other countries, but we see that there are sort of local mechanisms of addressing the grievances. I think that is what the nation level needs to learn. For example, how do we put young people together who were in different sides? You see, as a priest, I can tell you that during the arrest, we have buried one policeman in the morning and then one young man in the afternoon, and we know the family are neighbors. How do they come together now? There are local mechanisms, just people to say, let us try to at least to have a sort of local mechanisms to see that the people are coming together. But these mechanisms needed to be replicated in terms of how do we deal with the people who are in jail? How do we deal with people with the legal processes? How do we deal with the crimes? But at least we need yes, to focus on dialogue, but also to support those who are working on peace and reconciliation, especially at the community level. So I really encourage court just to come down and join faith communities and see what we are doing in Cabo Delgado, what we are doing in Niassa, what we are doing in Nampula, and other places, and I think that is our role, and we are able to accompany them. We are able to give them safe spaces, like what we do. Just finally, when the conflict in Cabo Delgado was at the peak, it was unbelievable to see Christians and Muslims together in the community. But we have done it, for example, at the peace clubs, where sheikhs, imams, priests, and the other leaders, they go to the community together. When they see leaders together, I think they give a sort of security. Imagine, for example, someone from Anamola and someone from Frelimo or Renamo just going together to the community to see that they are really people and that they are working together. At least we need to give that sort of sign, especially for the youth. I thank you.
Thank you, Bishop. Thank you, Bishop. Ambassador Mpelchwe, your hand was first before Mr. Diaz, but I would like to, for completeness, ask speakers to address these questions. Was your hand about one of these three questions or a new question? Ambassador Mpelchwe? If it's a new question, can I ask that we just wrap up these three?
No, you may allow the presenters to respond to the issues that have been raised.
Thank you, Ambassador. Then you're next. Sorry. Dr. Diaz, your hand was up.
Thank you so much. One of the questions Mick mentioned, it's about the accountability. The accountability, it's one of our very big problem, our very big headache. So one example of this is at the moment we have two police officers. We were convicted to assaulting people because the victims were able to identify them. But the police covered up and claimed they cannot people suffering with that violations identified that two officers. We conduct the case to the court. We win the case 2 weeks, 2 or 3 weeks ago, and the police covered that two police officers. At the moment, it's important to set 1 year ago we submit to the prosecutors the file a court case against the ex-commander of general commander of the police and the ex-minister of the interior for about that whole process, and we saw the same problem. Because the police, he said, we try to find some ex-province commanders, but we don't find them. How you cannot find them? Because we move it to the other province. Okay, you move it to the other province. We have the name, we have the location, etc. It's easy to give that document to participate in the court and to give that testimony about this whole process. Is not an easy process because we cannot locate it. How it's possible? Because you move to the other post, so it's maybe you have their contacts and etc. So our police, our system or judicial system put some barriers to try to not to that process don't go forward, and that is the one of the big headache we're facing right now. But hopefully we have one other process in the African court. I think next week we will travel to Banjul to try to create some pressure in the African commissions, and we work together on this court with the PALO, the Pan-African lawyers. So I think we are in the very good phase right now of this process, and we see progress on at this time. We will work with the Bar Association, I think on next week's for the second accountability process, but it's to give the states to give some compensation to that people who suffering with that all process. Because if we not do nothing about that, maybe we'll see the repetition of these all atrocities one more time in the elections or in the other type of protests. So you see on the Mozambican Women's Day, because one promise to the first lady make it, and he don't go forward about that promise. The people going to the streets, for example, in Nampula, and the people shoot the people with the real bullets. One more time, doing the same thing, women in the streets who are protesting, pacific protest, and the people use the real bullets. We saw the same thing in Mogovolach, for example, in the one mineral area, where the police shoot the people with the real bullets. We have right now, I think 70 people dead, but we have information like we have more than 17 people dead during this pacific demonstration, but the police the most part of the time use that real bullet. So we need to continue, stay strong, focus on the accountability, because if we don't be focused on the accountability, maybe we'll see when that situation will repeat. And to end that part, I think we will make progress in the dialogue, but at the same time, we are seeing laws being passed that unfortunately restrict the civic space. We saw the progress in the national dialogue, but in the parliament we saw some laws approve it or pass it to try to close or to restrict more the civic space. For example, we have the telecommunications law. It's the one example who restricts in case of the demonstration and etc. And it's the one clear violations of the freedom speech and other type of freedoms we'll see at this moment. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Diaz. And before I hand over to our final question from Ambassador Mpalchwa, Ms. Melania Mungoambe, can I ask, do you have any comments on the three questions, or your fellow speakers' comments, or any closing remarks in general, perhaps perspective from Amjij, given the gendered angle to the violence? Melania?
Alô, conseguem me ouvir?
Yes, we can hear you.
Obrigada. Bom, creio que o essencial ficou com as contribuições dos outros colegas. Dizer apenas mais uma vez que a MX agradece por ter esta oportunidade de falar um pouco sobre as atividades que temos vindo a realizar no âmbito deste diálogo, e dizer também que continuaremos a trabalhar no sentido de envolver ainda mais jovens e mais jovens mulheres neste processo, e esperamos que os resultados reflitam aquilo que são as nossas reais necessidades e não apenas questões que já estão previamente definidas, mas que sejam ouvidos os jovens e que faça sentir realmente aquilo que nós precisamos, e que hajam mesmo essas mudanças, que dentro de alguns anos nós possamos com orgulho dizer que somos a juventude que trouxe a mudança e que fez algo para este país, e que haja esta retoma de confiança, sei que já houve alguma vez a confiança, mas que haja esta retoma e que continuemos a trabalhar em colaboração e em conjunto, porque acreditamos que juntos somos mais fortes. Muito obrigada a todos.
Thank you, Melania. Thank you very much. And over to you for our final question, Ambassador Mpalchwa.
Thank you very much, and good day to everyone. I'd just like to pick up on a few issues that have been raised by the various speakers. I think the Bishop and as well as Wilker Diaz, they raise two important issues. The Bishop raised the issue of peace building, the need, to focus on the issue of peace building, and Wilkers is cautioned against conflating the national dialogue for national reconciliation. And I think these become very important issues in the context of the history of a country that has been in a perpetual state of violence from even the start of the Liberation War, through the Liberation War, through the post-democracy era or independence era, and up until we witnessed, the violence that followed the elections of 2024. So these two issues are really important issues that in carrying through this national dialogue, will need particular focus, because this perpetual state of violence has left very deep scars, in society. I mean, even now, just in terms of the most recent violence, we're talking about people who were killed, we're talking about families, we're talking about people still in detention, and so on. So this is a very important issue that needs very tough, ongoing, and deep conversations, to take place within the nation, perhaps beyond the national dialogue itself, because I think the national dialogue is something that will have a lifespan. But I think this issue of conversations that aim to achieve these important objectives. And I'll come back to the issue of the timelines at the end. The second issue that I think it's also going to be important to raise is the issue of addressing the conditions of the youth, because that is the platform on which you build the future. And if the condition of the young people is being destroyed, you are actually destroying the future of a country. And therefore, the speakers that have raised the issue of ensuring that whatever comes out of this national dialogue, it addresses the condition of the youth. And if you have lived in Mozambique and you witness, the condition of young people, you just know that the basis for the future is being destroyed. So I think this is a very important issue, and I would probably dare to say that Mozambique probably reflects the least visibility of participation of young people in public life. And I think that it is an issue that needs to be addressed quite seriously. The third issue, perhaps before I go to let me go to the third issue. I think in going through this process, it's also going to be very important to focus on the separation of powers and independence of institutions to guarantee democracy. But I recognize that this is something that will require fundamental constitutional reform, not just reform of laws. You can amend the electoral legislation, but if that is not anchored, in a constitution that ensures that electoral bodies enjoy an embedded independence. Unfortunately, we have participating today one of our electoral commissioners, Ms. Janet Love. I see her name here. You have to anchor that on the Constitution. And therefore, I didn't quite hear, clearly whether the issue of constitutional reform in the issues that were listed by Wilka in that beautiful presentation that he shared with us, and so I'd like to hear whether this is something that is being looked at. The final 2 points. Mozambique needs a fundamental change to the culture of the security apparatus. And again, these are issues that need to be anchored on constitutionalism. The understanding that the job of the police and the military, and maybe the intelligence agencies, it's not to protect the party in power. It is to protect democracy. And so it links to the issue of the first point about peace building and national reconciliation. It also links to the issue of the constitutional reform, which I believe is necessary. But this is also something that will speak to the very training that is given, to your police, your military personnel, and your intelligence people to understand what it is that is their role in society and in democracy. And final point, David raised an important issue about the calendar and the timelines for this national dialogue not being very clear. And this is very vital because very soon you're going to find yourself, at the point of the next election. And I don't believe if there have been no outcomes and changes from this process, I don't believe that Mozambique can survive, a conflict and violence that would emanate from a perceived, unfair or rigged election outcome. I mean, if we saw what happened with the 2024, which, is something that Mozambique has really not seen in its post-independence era. The rising up of the population. I'm not talking about Renamo fighting the government security forces. I'm talking about the people rising up against the system. I don't think Mozambique would survive another episode of that. So these are just the issues I'd like to throw up. They're not so much questions, but issues that I believe the participants in this process need to also carry in their minds and make attempts to insert these issues in the national dialogue process. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ambassador. Thank you, Ambassador. And I wish it were an hour. I wish we were 11 because each of your points raised deserves a thorough discussion. But unfortunately, we don't have time for that at the moment. I would say if colleagues, specifically Dr. Dias, there was the second question I think was specifically addressed to you, second point. But if speakers would like to give a very brief input in response, then we could have time for that. But if I could ask colleagues to please be brief. Thank you. Any speakers who would like to just comment in response to Ambassador Mphofa's input?
Thank you. Maybe it's be like my last consideration. Thank you so much for this particular opportunity. I would like also to highlight the fact that what's happening in Mozambique, what's happening in Mozambique in 2024, I think that it should be a kind of experience for some African countries where you can so learn from and so also find out some solution, because at the end of the day, we are going through electoral process, governance, democracy. So, and then allow me to wish you all the best and say that all of us as African, we should also keep fighting for our citizens and representing them as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for being brief. Thank you, David. Any last brief inputs from speakers before we hand over to my colleague to close? Going once and twice.
Thank you.
Yes,
thank you so much for SALO for the invitation for this new engagement on Mozambique. And I think the ambassador has just summarized the spirit of the conversation. I think the dialogue needs to come with the culture of peace, changing attitudes, changing behaviors, changing patterns, and showing the society that something is changing for better, so that people, especially our youth, are mobilized not for conflict, but for a culture of peace. I thank you.
Thank you, Bishop. Thank you, Bishop. These are great words to end on. And apologies for the sake of time. Already in the chat, colleagues are indicating they need to leave. So I think it's best, this is by no means the last of our discussions on what's happening in Mozambique. So we will meet again soon. But without further ado, I will pass over to my colleague, Resoketswe Chi to give closing remarks. Thank you, colleagues.
Thank you very much to all our speakers for their thoughtful and insightful contribution to today's discussion. Your reflections have helped us to deepen our understanding of the complexities surrounding Mozambique National Inclusive Dialogue, particularly the role of non-state actors in shaping more inclusive and credible outcomes. I would also like to extend my sincere thanks to all participants who joined us today. Your engagement and contributions are what give these dialogues their value, and we appreciate the time that you take to be part of this conversation. Finally, we are grateful to our partner, Irish Aid, for their continued support, which makes engagement such as this possible. As SALO, we remain committed to creating platforms that connect local experiences with the regional processes and support informed and constructive dialogue on issues of governance and democratic development across Southern Africa. Thank you once again for everyone who joined us today. We look forward to continuing this engagement in future discussions. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good afternoon.